But no, it's like this.
Amen.
You can't get rid of me that easy. Okay. Amen. Oops.
So we're learning this evening the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe, the Parshas Shlach Toshin Nun Aleph.
Yaakov. Just like 3 inches that way. Just go that way about a foot. Yeah. Oh, that way, the other way.
I don't understand the word.
You're in the picture, that's why.
Toshin Nun Aleph. And
Away.
the learning is taking place on Thursday evening, where the Kof Hei Sivan Toshin Ein Ches. And we're learning in the Beis Knesset of the Tzemach Tzedek Be'ir HaKodesh Tzfat, the Koinen, Siboinen, Tekum Yad Mamish, Yachadim Mashiach Tzidkeinu. So the Rebbe begins, Yadua, it is well known to us. Shaf Shebechol Shabbos Koirim Batoira Parsha Achas Bilvad. Even though every Shabbos we read in the Beis Knesset only one parsha, sometimes we read 2 parshas together in a year which is not a Shnasa Ibra, but that's got to do with Cheshbonos, to do with the Ibra Hashona V'chulu, and then the 2 parshas, they become like Parsha Achas, they become like one parsha. So actually we read only one parsha. Ubechol yom b'shavua lo yimim chelach ochet me'parsha. Yeah, ha'kosher lo yizeh yom. And the minhag in the Barish is that every day we read and learn a portion from the Chumash, which is part of the parsha, which has to do a kosher le'isha yom, and that has to do with that particular day. Afal Pikein, nonetheless, kol chelik me'aparsha kosher l'kol parsha. Every portion of the parsha got to do with the whole parsha. The whole parsha kashura l'kol Torah, and we find that in a more general, embracing way, every parsha is part of the whole and connected with the whole Torah. Torah achas, and therefore the Torah is called, even in the Torah itself, Torah achas hi l'kulanu. In other words, it's one Torah, even though the specific parts of it which deal with their own particular yonim, they all become part of the union of the one Torah. So it is with every parsha. The parsha is a one parsha, but it's got different themes and parts that come up in that particular parsha. They don't disturb the fact that it's really parsha achas, because even though they have their individual value, they all fit together and they're somehow linked with one another inside the Parsha Achas. So the Rebbe is going to bring us a couple of examples of that. And he said, Udazu, or that fact, Mudgeshes B'miyur B'Parsha Seinu, or that particular phenomenon, that every individual part of the parsha is a value of its own, but it's part of a whole general parsha, and all the factors unite together to one basic union. He said that's very noticeable in this week's parsha, Parshas Shlach. כל הפרשה, כמעט, almost all the parsha, מדברת בנושא אחד, שילוי חמה על מרגלים. Almost the whole parsha in number of psukim and words talks on one theme, and that's the sending of the spies. Now we'll see as we go along that the Rebbe is going to teach us that they weren't really spies in the normal sense of the word. The ones that Moses said. The ones that Yeshua said, the ones that Moses said weren't really, but that's what the custom is to call them Hamaraglim. And so therefore the main theme in most of the Parsha is the sending on the part of Moses these observers, let's call them, that they turned into spies. The Achonas, the Shiluach, and the preparation for the sending, Harigo Bapayo, the actual spying of the country in action, and then Ha'oinash, the punishment and the penalty that was hutul aleihem al kolam Yisrael, and then the rather terrible visitation or punishment which was made upon them and on all, the whole kol Israel. V'avtoches Hashem l'Yisrael shel amrei sakoil hem yizku lehikonis la'oret. Nonetheless, we see in today's chitas that starts talking about what are you going to do when they get into Earth Israel. And so he's talking to the Yidden how they're still in the desert. So he promises the Yidden that ultimately they will go into Earth Israel. Or those particular people called the Meraglim and that generation, they want to go in. But ultimately, Yidden are not going to be left in the Midbar. Ultimately, Yidden are going to go in. Avamela, we see from that there's a promise to the Jewish people that they will go ahead despite everything. And therefore, it just happens to be a fascinating notice. If you take a look, the Eibishter didn't stop the man, for example, even though he saw these people as having defied his will in the most terrible fashion. Nonetheless, for the whole 40 years that they stayed in the desert, they had the man. And they had their Nana Kovid, and they had the Be'er Shel Miriam only ceased shortly before they went over in Eretz, the whole inner Be'er Shel Miriam. So they had water, and Hashem looked after them exactly as he did prior to the whole broch with the Meraglim. And so all of that continued together with the promise that ultimately they would go into Eretz Yisrael. Kol zeh, says the Rebbe, all of that, mispares al pnei kol ha-parsha kemat. That takes up most of the parsha. Kach shekedei lahovin ma b'diuk ayo lo yimaspik lekoi chelet archa b'parsha ma shemochiach shemuduva b'parsha acher. So the Rebbe said we have to understand what exactly kilo is added by the other parshas, chutz from the Meraglim, that makes it into, despite the fact it's got own chelik in the parsha, how does it all become part of parsha achas? It's all like one united message. L'chayda, they seem to be very different things. First of all, we talk about the Meraglim and most of the parsha. Then we mentioned about Chalul, and then we mentioned about the korbanos, the nasochim, the mincha and wine offerings with every korban that should be bought later in the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. And then at the end we learn about tzitzas. So each one of them must have its own particular message, but it must also be seeable and noticeable as part of the general message, including the Meraglim. So there must be in everything that's mentioned afterward. Are you familiar with how to deal with that? What happened to Rabbi Mazel? He was here before. Thanks. And therefore it's very fascinating. If you notice in the Parshas that after the Meraglim, where you immediately learn about the mitzvahs Chala, and then about the Nesochim, you'll notice that Rashi, even Rashi, B'derech HaPshat, says what these have to do with the Meraglim, or at least the Nesochim he does. You know, what sort of a reference and a tikkun is that in regards to what happened with the Meraglim. And tzitzis, the Rebbe is going to soon bring an example of the tzitzis. And he's saying, Gam mitzvah tzitzis, yeah, Aleim Musuva Siyama Parsha, we're told about that at the end of the Parsha, Matzbiya ala Kesher, Shekol mitzvah, yeah, the Kol HaTorah Kula. He said the mitzvah of tzitzis indicates to us the kesher between every mitzvah and the whole parsha as a part of the whole Torah Kula. Because, how is that? She'lamrei shezuhi mitzvah pratius. The tzitzis is a specific mitzvah. Nema aleya u'reisa moisoi, you should see the tzitzis, u'zechatem is called mitzvah Hashem. So we see that the mitzvah tzitzis, and there's a whole Rashi where Rashi points out that even the word tzitzis adds up to 613 and so on and so on. So from that we see that the mitzvah tzitzis refers to all the mitzvahs. And it embraces all the mitzvahs, and by examining the tzitzis, you come to remember and you become aware of all the mitzvahs as an entirety. So that's a very general thing which embraces all the Torah. So Ein Lachanami, tzitzis is a mitzvah of its own right. It's a specific mitzvah. But it includes within itself, and it unites itself with all the mitzvahs and causes the mensch to live in an awareness all the time of all the mitzvahs, which links him up with the whole Torah Kula, because the whole Torah is the purpose of giving of the mitzvahs and explaining how they're to be done. So we see then that there's a passage of the Meraglim, then there's references to these mitzvahs which are immediately with their own value individually, how they relate back to the Meraglim, and they're a form of a tikkun on the Meraglim. And then we come to the tzitzis, which is obviously a tikkun, because it reminds us of all the mitzvahs, including most of the mitzvahs, how they're supposed to be done in Eretz Yisrael. So it's obviously a connection with the Meraglim, with its own self, with the whole Torah Kula. So the Rebbe says, you see that even though there's individual messages in each portion, nonetheless they all link together and they're all sort of interrelated, and they all become, in a general way of that interrelation, they become even a more general way part of the whole Torah. So the Rebbe said, Marsha Dain Derish Hezber, what we now have to understand is, Mahu HaKesher Bein Rayon HaAchtos B'Torah HaMudgash B'Miyochid B'Parsha Lebein Toigno Parshas HaMeraglim. So the Rebbe said, Kum Tois Imkain, it follows that each parsha in the Torah indicates the concept of Achtos. What is Achtos? When you have a plural and you find a union between all of them, that's called Achtos. When we say, for example, Hashem Echad every day, we imply that the world was actually created. Hashem did actually bring about in some way the Matthias of the world, and that is a huge multiplicity. But it's all united in the oneness of Hashem. It all unites and is elevated into the oneness of Hashem. The same thing with these parshas. Each parsha is an individual thing, but it all becomes part of the oneness of the whole Torah. And in this parsha we see these different things, and they all become part of the one. So that's the concept of Achtos. So that means that every parsha, and particularly this parsha, carry in themselves the message of Achtos, and how that's particularly shaykh to Torah. Of Amira said the Rebbe, we have to understand what is since there's a special emphasis on Achdus in this parsha, what's that got to do with the Meraglim? Because the main theme in the parsha is the Meraglim. So there must be some in the Achdus of the whole Torah and the way it's expressed in this parsha with the story of the Meraglim. So that's one thing we need to understand. The next thing is, Madua kol zeh noifel davke besof yechodesh Sivan. That's one on that we always read, Parshas Shlach, either before Shabbos Mavochim Sivan, or Shlach is actually the Shabbos Mavochim, Chodesh Sivan, which means the Parshas Shlach always comes out at the end of the month of Sivan. Even if it's the Shnas Ha'ibah, that's what happened. So the balancing of the Parshas has already been arranged, that's the way it will be. So we need to understand what is the concept of the month of Sivan, and particularly the finality of the month of Sivan, with the inyan of the Meraglim. So Shavua, says the Rebbe, or the Parsha tells us, Ala Meraglim Shesholach Moshe. Now the truth is, he didn't mean them to be Meraglim, as we'll soon see. Moshe Rabbeinu sent them, V'gam b'hav Torah, and even in the verse, the section from the prophet, which we read at the end, and there's a special ali called Maftiya, and the reading from the Nevi'im is called the Haftorah. Also, we meet up with spies. Yes, Ikiyadua Ma'ena Parsha, and our sages say that one of the reasons they fixed the reading in the prophetic pieces was that they are Ma'en, the Parsha. They're like linked with the theme of the Parsha. As Mesuper Ketzad Yoshua Shalach Meraglim, since it has to have a Ma'in, it's going to be similar to the Parsha. So therefore, Yeshua, before he went over the Yarden with the whole Jewish people, the whole Klal all into Eretz Yisrael, he also sent Meraglim. So we see the beginning of the Parsha and the main number of Psuchim have to do with the Mishloach Meraglim by Moshe. And then we find another sending of Meraglim by Yeshua. So the Rebbe said, we read how Yeshua sent Meraglim. Bein shnei shlichoyos elo yeshnam mispar hevdelim. However, between these two different sending of spies, there are quite a number of very noticeable differences, and they need an explanation. So let's just take a quick look at all the differences. So he said, Moshe Rabbeinu shalach meraglim al das atzmai. He did that on his own personal das. Because Rashi brings right at the beginning of the Parshas, if you remember, a very amazing Rashi with all the great Meforshim break their heads over. But that's what Rashi says, that Hashem said to Moshe, Ani lo mitzaveh otcha. I'm not telling you to do it. I already told him, and I told you that everything's fine, it's wonderful, and you're going in, yeah? If you want to send, then you send, you know? So that the whole sending of the Meraglim was on Moshe Rabbeinu's stars, or his, like you might call it, his achrayus, you know, his responsibility. So that's one of the very striking points about the Meraglim. However, I'm not commanding you. Compared to that, Yeshua nitztaber adidei Hashem l'shloich meraglim. When it was just before they went to Yericho over the Yarden, then Hashem commanded Yeshua to send the meraglim. Even though it's not written in the Haftarah that Hashem commanded him, but we learn out, the Medrash Tanchuma and other Medrashim learn out from certain diukim in the psukim that Yeshua didn't do it on its own decision, and we can understand that in Parshas, after all the terrible things that happened from the sending of the spies. At the beginning, Yeshua, as a devoted Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu, he wouldn't have sent Meraglim again. If he did, it must have only been that he was commanded. That's number one. 2. He says, Eitzel Moshe, Loi Moifia Habito Imeragleim. Oh, now that's what's important. He said, by Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't find the expression Meraglim. Because Meraglim means spies. Ner Marak, Shlach Lecha Onoshim. You should send people. And Rashi writes that Anoshim, B'mikro, is Anoshim Chashuvim. It means Tzadikim or Chashuvim. And therefore Rashi says at that particular time they were kosher. So it wasn't sending spies, but very, very leading people. But Yosuru is Eretz Canaan, and they had the task of what you might call traveling around. But the word Yosuru is from Russian Yeta. Yeta means an advantage, or their whole idea was to go into Eretz Yisrael and reveal its supremacy, reveal the milas that it had. Ve'etzo Yoshua nema mufurish anoshim meraglim. He sent Shnei anoshim meraglim cherev, and he sent them very quietly, just like he sent spies. Moshe Rabbeinu they didn't go carefully; they just walked into a whole group of them. So he says, Moshe Shlach Shteimes Anoshim. Moshe Rabbeinu sent 12 of them, each one a leader of another tribe, except for Shevet Levi, he didn't send. But he sent Adikot. But later we'll see that Yeshua did send Shevet Levi. Pinchas was the second one. Pinchas was a Kohen, he was from Shevet Levi. Moshe Shlach Shteimes Anoshim, Yeshua Shlach Shnei Hashem, Yeshua, he sent only 2. The Moshe Rabbeinu Shalach Nasiya Yisrael, Koyel Nasi Behem. Each of them was a Nasi in his tribe. Now, a Nasi means an elevated person, a leader. How would you say looked up to? How to call him? A revered and respected person, but he's also a person with what you might call arbitrary ruling power over the people. It's written exactly who they were, or their names, and who they were sons of, and everything. It's written their full names in the Torah. That's not written. It's not written who they were. We said one of them was, we know that from a medrash of our sages. In the verse, clearly, it's not written openly who Yeshua sent. That's only we learn, but Kabbalah from our sages who they were. Now, Meraglim Shal Moshe Pirusamu Esatzmah. The Meraglim Moshe Rabbeinu had a court. They went with a Pirusim. Now, also amongst the Yidden, before they went, it was also a well-known and published fact that they were sending the Meraglim, because he was the Nasi, and all of a sudden the Nasi getting himself ready to join the whole group, and they're going away. The whole tribe knew about it. That was their Nasi. In Mamela, it was a dover that made a lot of, how do you call it? It made a lot of what you might call fuss, It made a big pilsum. Kol b'nai Yisrael yodu k'sham maraglim halchu v'chozru. Also they knew when they came back. V'gam bo Eretz Yisrael, and even when they went into Eretz Yisrael, lo halchu b'nifrad u'b'seisa. They didn't split up. Normally spies, they were split up if they should be noticeable. They all went together, and they didn't go hiddenly. Ela b'kulam yachad. Ad Hashem osa nes miyuchad. Hashem made a very special nes, kedei shelo yugashu behem, in order that they shouldn't wake up to what's going on. The Canaanim shouldn't realize the whole group of strange guys are marching into the country. Rage Galay. So what did he do? He had them all busy burying Mason. They were all burying dead at the time, so they got killed. There was a big dever and the whole thing. So they were so busy, Rashi brings it down, they were so busy burying their dead, they didn't have time to notice the Meraglim. Ve'ilu Meragli Yoshua halchu b'sheker. That's written the word cheresh. What cheresh means a person who doesn't speak, a deafy. Deaf in her tummy is a cheresh. They went very silently. Halchu b'sheker mibli shebnei Yisrael yodu alka. Yidden didn't know. It was only Yeshua. But Yeshua avtziva aleim shiyu meraglim cheresh. He said you should be very silent and secret guys. Nobody should know where you're going. And that's the way they conducted themselves. They hid here, they hid there. And even when they did get over the border, they had to hide for a whole night on the roof under the pishon that they hid them on the roof. They came to the first house, was their house, and the next thing is they had to run upstairs and hide. So they were the whole time under concealment. And then also, when they got down off the wall, she let them down. Then she said to them also, run to the mountain and hide there. Had to go flee to the mountain, make sure you wait there, but in hiding for 3 days until everybody will give up with finding you, then you should go back. So we see that their whole inner was, so that, just by the way, that promotes another question, that they didn't really do anything. They just went for one night, and the whole night they were hiding under pishon, on the roof, and then late in that night they got down off the wall and they fled into the mountain. What did they do? They never did anything. And yet nonetheless, when they got back, nobody was displeased with them. On the contrary, Moshe was very thrilled, Yeshua was very encouraged by the message that they gave. Of what did they do, They didn't even spy Yericho. They went into Yericho, but they never really did anything to it. And so ask yourself the question, what is so amazing about their shlichut? So he says the next, the final thing is, the Meragli Moshe's Tevu B'Kol Eretz Yisrael Kula. They went the whole, it's just that they had an answer. It was Arba Me'esh Parsa, and the speed that they were going, they should have taken much longer, but they got Kfitza Sadera, and only took them 40 days. But they went through the whole of Eretz Yisrael. Ve'ilu Meragli Yeshua, Amnam Nitzavol L'Ragel, it's called Oretz. Yeshua told him to spy the whole country. Avu b'foil b'isa layla, shehim igiu l'bayis ha'rochel, eim nelzu l'hischabei b'chutz le'yah. B'oto layla, they got down off the wall, and they had to flee to the mountain. Umiyad eim chozru l'Yeshua, u'b'chach yistayim ha'shlichus, and that was the finish of their shlichus. So ask yourself the question, what did they really do? They must have done something very important. If that was L'chaim, I'd really be taken off. Maybe that's what we should do. Occasionally sort of,
spike it.
Drop a little bit of it.
It's all done.
Till we eat a couple of sailing. If you tell him to do something, he does it.
Next week, get ready.
So
would you like?
The whole thing is very surprising.
Would you like L'chaim now? Would you like it?
I remember when I first came to the yeshiva way back. I'm going back, over 50 years. To Rav Shlomo Chaim, the mashpia, he used to drink the Fabring, something like that, but it didn't have any mashpia in it, just a drop they would put at the bottom of the cup. Because he couldn't, medically, he was forbidden to take mashke. So he used to drink sort of a coffee, but it had a little drop of mashke at the bottom, and he used to say the Chaim was all about him. Yeah. So maybe I'll play that game. Anyway, so that's the amazing story with all these miraglim. ההסבר לכך הוא ששתי השליחי של משה ויהושע היו לצורך שתי מטרות שונות. The emphasis is the Rebbe that the shlichas of Moshe and Yeshua are very different, and they had different aims. Shishlimu zu zu. We'll find that they perfect one the other, they as it were, how they could complete one the other, but they're very different. He said, Yesh no pa'ulas rigo b'ktei lada'o. So the Rebbe said that basically, if you're the leader of a conquering army or a conquering force coming into a new country, then there would be two reasons why you might send observers or miraglim. So he said, one is that on a military basis, that you want to know how it's the best way to go about conquering the country. So you want to know what sort of cities, what sort of land is it in general, what's the best way to go, and how to catch people by surprise, all sorts of military factors. That's one way. The second way is that you already very confident and you know that you're going to beat them all and everything. You want that your whole army should go with tremendous simcha, so you send observers, not spies in the normal way. You send observers into the new country that they should come back and tell what a wonderful country this is and how really tremendously worthwhile it is to conquer it, so that when the whole conquering people will move in, they'll move full of motivation and simcha. They'll be full of simcha. So he said that's the difference. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't send them because he heard from Hashem that they're going to move in anyway. That wasn't the question. He sent his miraglim to look at the beauty of the country and come back and tell what an amazing country, bring back the fruits and show what an amazing country it is. And then the Yidden would see and they would be full of singing and say, oh, wow, this is amazing, let's get cracking, let's get moving. Yeshua was different. Yeshua was already mamish. He was going across the Yarden into the battle with Yericho. And he took it militarily, being a leader and on a lower level than Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't have all the prophetic promises that Moshe Rabbeinu had when they get to the victory, as he wanted on a military basis to send spies. So he sent them for the more simple military reason. So Kunta is that really Moshe Rabbeinu didn't send spies. Moshe Rabbeinu did not send miraglim. And therefore Rashi says, near the beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yeshua. He put an extra ois on his name, put a yud at the beginning of his name, and he said, Ko Yoshiach me atzos miraglim. He said, Hashem should save you from the Eitzah of the miraglim. Now we don't find the word miraglim mentioned in the whole Parsha. So where did Rashi get the word miraglim? So Rashi's hinting at this. They're not being sent as being miraglim. They're being sent to tell the great and the beauty of Eretz Yisrael. Hashem should guard you that you shouldn't fall into the Eitzah of these other guys that they're going to fall into, and they're going to try and persuade you that they also have a military. And that wasn't their arena. That wasn't their arena. And that was their mistake. That they mixed into arena what Moshe Rabbeinu didn't send them for that reason. That wasn't the purpose of him sending them. That's what the Rebbe says, those are the two. That's the difference between them. Meragli Moshe Loi Nishlchu Kedei Ladas Keitzad Lichbosh. They weren't sent to know how to conquer militarily. Ela Kedei Lahakir Esa, to recognize and become acquainted with the greatness of the country. And therefore, it's very interesting, if you look up all the Rashis on all the Pesukim that Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Meraglim, you should do this and that, they all have to do with different miles, but nothing military. He doesn't say to them, and even when he asks, you have to find out if they're big people or they're small, He said, that's not because of the military side of it, but that will tell me what sort of, if they're strong people, it means a very powerful type of country. If not, it's a bit of a, maybe in some ways, a bit schwacher. But all of the things that Moshe, if you look carefully, all the things that Moshe Rabbeinu said to them were only about Eretz Yisrael and the greatness of the people reflecting what is the beauty and the greatness of the country. And the Rebbe makes a whole amazing analysis of Moshe and Rashi in that whole section. So therefore, comes out that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't send spies. He sent people. Ve'ilu maragla Yoshua, however, yakvar lo hayu tzrichim lahakir as ma'alisei shel Eretz Yisrael. They didn't need all that Moshe Rabbeinu told his, because they already knew kivan shezeh kvar nasa b'shleimas b'zman shel Moshe. When the Meraglim came back, the first part of what they said was good. And Rashi brings it down also that the first part they said was true. And they just said it's a very beautiful country and it's amazing and this is its fruit. Over Meraglim is that they did actually keep part of their Shlichus, and that was forever. That lasted in the minds of the Jewish people. So then when Yeshua sent his Meraglim, he didn't need to know about the wondrousness of it. It was already known to everybody from Moshe Rabbeinu's Meraglim. It's an amazing idea. Yeah, it's Meragli Yeshua, they were Hoyu Tzchim Ladas Keitzat Lichboy. They have to know how do you go about military conquering Esa Orez. Yeah, but which year would be Kedai to start the first part of the war and similar. Given Shibazman Shel Yeshua as a Kukim Gamlachak, they needed all that. Now there's just a little bit of a background information I need to give you. It could be that it's mentioned here again later in the Kitzur that they give here. That Moshe Rabbeinu, when he took the Yidden as far as entering Eretz Yisrael, and when last week's Parshas, he thought they were going over into Eretz Yisrael. Last week's Parshas, he said to Yisrael, Noisi Manachnu, we're going now into Eretz Yisrael. They didn't intend having to go with war. On the contrary, Hashem, he would have won everything for them. And it's brought down in many Medrashi Chazal that had they not had the whole problem with the Meraglim, and they hadn't made all the problem that they did, that Hashem would have taken them over into Eretz Yisrael, and there wouldn't have been any war. All the Canaanim would have just folded up. Many of them would have surrendered. Some of them, like it did actually happen, but well, some of them would have left, and others would try to do a peace agreement with the Yidden, but there would be all sorts of ways that they would just give up. Because Moshe Rabbeinu would have been Poyo, that would all be through Hashem. However, later, Yeshua was already a generation after, and he was after there'd been all the Nefilah with the Meraglim and with Koyrach and with all those things. And remember, he was on a lower level, he had to fight. Therefore, it was necessary a military conquest of Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, his Meraglim didn't need what Moshe Rabbeinu, because they'd already heard from Moshe Rabbeinu's Meraglim, because that part of it was true. He needed military information, because he was a great military leader as well as a Novi, Yeshua. That's the difference. And the more you think about it, the more it just opens up a whole new vista of how to view the whole part. Over there says the Rebbe, B'nai Yisrael bikshu me Moshe meraglim al menas l'ragel es ha'oretz. Yidden, as we're told in Sefer Dvarim, they took they had in mind that they wanted meraglim to do like spy the land, that because they were on a lower level. Yeah, l'das heikim kedai latchil lehilochem keder kol haboim lehilochem be'eretz acheret. Ubelishoinam, as I brought down in Sefer Dvarim, when Moshe repeats the whole story, Nishlacha anoshim lefaneinu v'yachperu. The word in the original Hebrew for Yeraglu is v'yachperu, lachpoyer, es kol ha'oretz bo. Yeah, that's what the people in Yericho said to Rochel, that lachpoyer es kol ha'oretz. The ordinary spies are called lachpoyer. So the Yidden said to Moshe Rabbeinu, we'd like them to go and spy the land. But Moshe Rabbeinu himself didn't mean that. That wasn't necessary by Moshe Rabbeinu. Had Moshe Rabbeinu taken the Yidden in, it would have been a miraculous war or miraculous conquest, let's put it that way. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said to him. After the whole thing, he said, listen, you guys, you're mistaken, you've had a terrible error. Yeah? The whole reason why Moshe Rabbeinu did decide to send was not because he didn't agree with Hashem and he did the opposite of what Hashem said. He wanted to make the Yidden have the same chayes as he had. Therefore he said, you should see with your own eyes. And he said, when you hear from somebody who's seen, then you get more enthusiastic, you get more adequate. In Yiddish, the word is verkocht, you get more sort of cooked up, when you hear from somebody who's seen. And the Alter Rebbe rings in Lakutei Torah, Uraisa Moisoi, that he wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to be mamshich, that all the Yidden should have re'iyah, be'elokus. They should see divinity, and they should see all the miracles, just like he had re'iyah. And that's why he sent them, he said to them, re'isa mesoret. You have to bring re'iyah into Eretz Yisrael. Yeah, so he said, re'isa mesoret mahi, ha'im Eretz Yezu megadeles giboidim mechaloshim. Doesn't have to do, anoshim rabbi moi me'atim. Zu asiva shemoisha bikish b'miyuchad laharis is peidus ha'oretz ha'toivim v'ashmeinim b'dei shekulam yiru eretz toiv es eretz ha'toiv sheberetz Yisrael. We'll see the eretz toiv. The whole asking about what sort of people was all that we should come to recognize the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. So the Rebbe said, the whole idea was that when the Meraglim came back, Moshe wanted 600,000 Yidden would always say, oh, come on, we're all going, and we're all full of enthusiasm because we've seen it and we've heard from somebody who's seen, If you hear from somebody who's seen, then you have a different enthusiasm. And that was all Moshe Rabbeinu wanted. And Mechanim said that Moshe Rabbeinu's Meraglim were a different story altogether. Ask itself the question, what went wrong? Why didn't everything work out well? So the Rebbe says, V'ochem matorah zu, to tell the mindless of Eretz Yisrael, the greatness, matorah zu, it came up as Shloi Musa. Yeah, that was kept in perfection. Alidei Meraglim Moshe, because they came back. Shechozru v'yomru bonu al ha'oretz asher shalachtanu. We went to the land that you sent us. V'gam zolas cholav u'devashi. And they said, Turkey is a land of milk and honey, and they said, and this is its payers. Yeah, that was the first thing they said, and that was emes, and that made an impression on everybody that was indelible. They added to what they were asked to do. They mixed in to something that they weren't asked to mix into the cloud. They said something that nobody asked them to, as they say in English, keiner hat nicht gebeten. Nobody asked them to say that, you know. That wasn't what they, they said that. And that was an addition to what they had been told. What do we see from here? A very amazing thing. If you're a Shlach, it's a tremendous mileage to be a faithful Shlach, and to do what you're asked to do it properly, you know. But don't move into an area which is not what you're sent for. In Yiddish they say, "Mizuk nicht rein." Don't mix yourself in, you know. Don't mix into the whole thing. And that's what they added, and they said something they weren't asked to say. That was the whole broch. Nobody asked them about the military side of it. Moshe Rabbeinu was positive that the military side of it is in his hands and in Hashem's hands. He only wants that it should be known to all Yidden the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. Although when they started saying about we can't conquer, we can't do this, we can't do that, they moved into a territory which wasn't theirs. Not that had they been asked about. Oy, oy, oy. So what do we see from that? Never mix beyond what you're, how do you say, something that's not your part of the deal. Don't mix in. Don't add to what your Shlichus is. Amazing. That's what the Rebbe. But what they did say good was the first part of it. And that remained indelible in the minds of the Yidden, so that Yeshua, all he needed to do was send spies. They didn't spy anything. They just got into Rocham's house, and the next thing out from the roof onto the pitch down, and then the next thing they dropped down the wall, and they run and hide in the mountain. What's on? So the Rebbe says later that what happened with them was that they spoke a few words with Rachel, and she said to them that that all the dwellers of this land are all terror and shaken with terror in front of you guys. That we've all heard of the Nisim and the Yam Suf and the other things that happened with you, and your miraculous entrance into the desert and all the amazing things that have happened. And so he said, nobody has got any breath left in their noses. Everybody's, how do you call it, a cellar. So they heard that. So they said they don't need to do anymore. That is the whole thing. And therefore they came back to Yeshua, and they said that she told us that she's a responsible person. She said that the whole country is fearful. They're all shaking in fright at the advance of the Yidden. Yeshua was very happy because that was what he wanted to know. And so they performed. They did perform their spying. They performed because they heard the whole content of what they went for. And they heard that they don't really need to know all the military details because everybody's going to fold up anyway. And that's what happened with Yericho. They came to Yericho, and miraculously the whole Yericho just came out. And so therefore, they did carry out what they were supposed to do in the most perfect way. Isn't that amazing? And then there's a whole thing from the Rebbe that they were Kolev and Pinchas. Kolev was, he was one of the ones that went over, and he was the one together with Yeshua, that he said, no, and he was with Moshe Rabbeinu, Kolev, he and Yeshua. So they went in there, so they got a portion of it. So he was one of the spies. Why did Hashem send him? Or why did Yeshua send him? Because he only proved himself the first time around that he knew the right approach. So he's the obvious one to send. The next one is Pinchas, and Pinchas was a Kohen, and he's from Shabbat Levi. Wars are not made by Shabbat Levi, and they don't have a portion in the country anyway. So the Rebbe says, when Mashiach will divide up the country, they will have a portion. The Shabbat Levi will have a portion. And therefore Yeshua sent, because he saw that there was going to be miraculous interception on the part of Hashem. And it's like as if Hashem were going to divide up. And how they call him, since it's like it's going to be Leosik Love, then Shabbat Levi do have to be involved, because they're going to have time. And therefore he sent Pinchas. Oh, the Milam at Pinchas was, and we see later that he was also a Kabbalah Sale man. He did whatever he fought Midian, the whole thing. He killed the prince of, Shimon, the Bnei Shimon. So they were two key figures that Yeshua knew that they were what the Rebbe calls Bittul with Kabbalah Sale. No, and that's two. All you need is two people. One called Bittul and one called Kabbalah. Shalom Aleichem Bittul and Shalom Aleichem Kabbalah. No, that's what the Rebbe said. No. That was the whole story. And then the Rebbe says, we're on the way to Mashiach, guys. Just like Kolev and Pinchas, they went in, Ein Losid Love, so that's where we're holding right now. Take him out, man.
Turn on the Moscow.
It's on.
It's not on. Don't you feel the difference?
What is it?
Very cool in here, I think.
Put your hand there.
Daniel, what is it? It just opens up a whole new. It's a whole new business, It was a strange way. It's a whole new business, the whole thing.
No, I read the other one. It's the Rebbe's other mimer.
I know
His other mimer? The spies and the animals thought he was in action. Amazing.
the other way.
Good
So what we're going to do is work for Mashiach. You should realize that amazing things are happening in the world. A lot of goyim all over the world are coming over to the Sheva Mitzvahs for main life. There's a whole thing, And there's a whole amazing story that there's some big Christians that have their opinion of those, that they decided that they have to be fair, and they have to tell a lot of their people that it all started with Judaism, and it all started with the Jews. So he taught the basic teachings of Moshe Rabbeinu, and what he said about the Sheva Mitzvahs, the Minayah. So a whole group of people left the whole Christianity behind. They've all gone over to, and there's a whole bunch of them want to be Mitkayah. And he got all these big Rabbonim breaking their heads to work out what he got all these guys who want to be Mitkayah. And it's happening. So you see the Rebbe's influence is massively coming into effect.
Kamo Ishaya. Kamo Ishaya.
Kamo Tanya.
Kamo Ishaya.
Kabbalah Mishnayos.
Ishaya. Ishaya.
Ishnan.
Isaiah.
125
Yeshaya, yeah.